Girl, stop playing. Welcome back to another episode of the Girl Stop Playing podcast. It's your favorite homegirl, Koereyelle, here to encourage you to stop playing with your potential and start working for what you want in life and in love. You already know that I believe you can make the money and you can get the honey. You can have it all as long as you are willing to work. And it's my goal to bring you the information and the conversations to help you do just that. Now, before we get into this week's solo sermon, I have to remind you all that I am super excited about the launch of my brand new course and community. It's called the Podcast Plug, and it's specifically for anybody out there who has been sitting on a show idea, someone who has been watching all the people start their podcast and feeling like they are about to get left behind because they know they got something to say. And even if you're unsure about what to say, even if you have no clue about what type of show you want to start, you know that podcasts is the wave of the future. Like, this is the new media space. It's the way for you to own your content. It's the way for you to grow your audience. It's the way for you to seamlessly make sales for your business. And it's the way to make sure your voice is being heard. And so I definitely want to encourage you, if you've been sitting on the fence about trying to figure out whether or not podcasting is for you, go ahead and log on to Get Paid with Pods, Pods, getpaidwithpods.com to learn more about the Podcast Plug course. Inside, you are learning how to launch a popular podcast, how to distribute your show on multiple platforms, how to position yourself to actually pitch dream guests, how to monetize your show from the start. I'm literally teaching you all of my mistakes, how I missed out on so much money because I was not doing it right when I launched my first podcast way back in 2015, had no clue what I was doing. So I'm sharing with you my lessons learned and how I was able to launch this podcast and start monetizing from the very first episode. Inside the course, I'm also teaching you how to market your podcast like the mogul that you are, so you can start making these podcast charts all around the world. It's literally the quickest way for you to grow a global audience. I have listeners in countries that I literally have to Google. Places that I've never been to, some places that I've never heard of. The Girl Stop Playing podcast is being downloaded in literally over 50 countries around the world, and we're actually making charts in these countries. So they're not just listening, but they're loving the content. And so not only am I appreciative of it, it's truly been a way for me to grow my brand, build my authority, and of course, continue to grow my audience. So if you are someone who has been debating whether or not you have what it takes to start and sustain a successful show, this is definitely the course and community for you. If you've previously launched a podcast, but you have not figured out how it can get you paid, this is the course and community for you. And if you are tired of struggling to make sales on social media and you're searching for a new solution, then by all means, log on to getpaidwithpods.com so that you can tap into this 8-week course where I'm teaching you everything from how to profit from your podcast, how to create podcast products if you want to further monetize, how to produce your podcast, and everything in between. So I'll make sure that we drop the show link or drop the website link in the show notes below. Check it out, and I will see you inside the course. Now, this is our very first time together in 2023, so definitely want to wish you all a very happy new year. I am so glad to be done with 2022, y'all. I can't lie to you, okay? And it gives me comfort in seeing all of the 2022 recap posts across social media where people are like, yo, 2022 knocked me down. I got drugged this year. Like, I've been through all of the things. And not to say that I'm happy that other people were suffering, but I'm glad that I wasn't alone. I'm glad that it wasn't just me that was feeling like, man, how much more do I have to prove? Like, God, how many more challenges and tests are there? Like, I know that a testimony requires a test, but come on, did I not pass yet? Have I not put in the work yet? And so I'm just excited to see what this new year is going to bring to me and is going to, have for us, I am positive that it's going to be full of blessings. And so I am just excited and looking forward to what 2023 is going to bring to us. But because I know that this is new year, new me season, I figured that we would start this year off with this particular solo sermon talking about new year and new priorities. So if you follow me on Instagram at Koereyelle, which I hope you do, I've been doing a lot of content around relationships. Now, Girl Stop Playing is all about encouraging you to stop playing with your potential. We talk about entrepreneurship and relationships. But it's always been on my heart since, my failed engagement, since I somehow ended up in an abusive relationship way back in 2010. It's always been on my heart to help other women who are struggling within their single season, or to help other women who are starting to lose hope and starting to give up on faith. Because one of the things that I know for sure God gifted me with is my strong faith. Even when I was going through my, troubles in my single life, when I was engaged to be married and then ended up back in these streets as a single woman, I never, ever, ever, ever felt like God had forgotten about me. I felt like he was testing me. I felt like he was, proving a point to me that the things that I was looking for, the things that I was prioritizing, the things that I thought I wanted was nothing that I needed. But I never gave up hope that he had the right person for me. I just realized way back then that I had to become the right person who could recognize the right person. So we often talk about, making the list, because the law of attraction is going to bring you exactly what you want. And I believe that 1,000%. But I think we can't leave out the other part of the instructions, which is make the list, step 1, become the list, step 2. And I think for a lot of women who grew up with the Disney movie Cinderella fairy tale kind of mentality, we think that we just have to, be out here living our lives, and Prince Charming is just going to show up one day and invite us to the ball, say he's looking for a wife, and then we're just going to like ride off into the sunset and live after. And for most of us, unfortunately, that is not the case. That is not reality. Okay, it's not reality for most of us. There is some work that has to be done. And the work that has to be done is like what I consider to be like the dirty work. It's not fun. It's not exciting. It's not cute, because it requires a level of self-awareness that most of us are not comfortable with. Most of us are not used to. But in my opinion, it takes that willingness to dig deep and to do the dirty work and to really start peeling back the layers of who we are, why we are the way we are, how we're showing up, and who we need to become in order for us to start attracting better options. And so I want to start the new year off talking about new year, new priorities, because in these posts that I've been sharing on Instagram, we've been talking about everything from the fact that, there are certain groups of people who feel like once a woman is of a certain age, her quote unquote value starts to diminish. There is a philosophy, or a theory that, once a woman turns 30, 90% of her eggs are gone. We talk about, the biology in it all, that, your options are much more limited in terms of fertility once you, reach a certain age. That's why a lot of women are ending up having to explore alternative methods to get pregnant and have babies, in terms of like IVF and, whether or not I'm going to go down to the sperm bank. There's just all of these conversations that seem to come up once a woman reaches a certain age. And in my opinion, the root cause of a lot of these issues is that we as a community, not just you, but we as a community have not prioritized these true life goals. We talk often about, the fact that women should build their careers and build their bank accounts and buy their homes and, doing all of these things that are like material goals, but then we leave out the conversation around like the marriage and the motherhood goals. And so I posted something the other day that was pretty controversial. The people were eating it up. And it was about whether or not women are actually prioritizing or more interested in becoming wives or becoming mothers. Um, um, but then there were other people who were like, well, I don't have a choice at this point. Like, I can't just force a man to come and marry me. I'm getting older. Biology is playing a role in this. I want to have kids. Like, what choice do I have? And although I can, I can appreciate that reasoning. I can be empathetic to where they are now. My question to that, and it's not a rebuttal, it's literally just a question, but it's, what were your priorities before this became like a pain point for you? So before you turn 30, 34, 35, and you're like, yo, my clock is ticking. What am I going to do? I have to decide, like, am I going to take matters into my own hands and just become a mother by myself? Am I going to find a man to co-parent with? Like, before it becomes like a pressing pain point for you, what were your priorities? What were you doing at 25, 26, 27? What were your priorities then? Were you playing games? Were you wasting your time with the wrong men? Like, what were you doing? And I know that this is not necessarily the most helpful question to ask, because it's like, well, it doesn't necessarily matter for you as an individual because that time has passed. You're 35 now. So what does it matter what I was doing at 25? These are the circumstances that I'm in right now. But I think that we are doing the next generation a disservice if we are not starting to have responsible conversations around romantic relationships. Because the thought girl, hot girl, city girl conversation and culture is making the next generation feel like marriage should not be a priority. Now, I don't really see that motherhood is slowing down. I think that people are still getting pregnant. They're obviously still having sex. But when it comes to marriage and commitment and partnership, that seems to be, lessening. That's not really a part of the conversation. And so I think for sure the Black community has raised Black women to prioritize their independence, raised Black women to prioritize their career, raise Black women to prioritize entrepreneurship over relationships. And that's why it's so important for me to have these conversations, even if we don't agree, but to at least open the door for the conversation, at least start the dialogue, because it's not just about us and our individual experiences. It literally comes down to the example that we're setting for the women who are looking to us, or the women who are coming up after us. And I think that it is irresponsible to be out here acting like a city girl until you're 30 years old, and then start panicking when you really start to feel the pressure, when your doctor starts to ask you these questions or start sharing statistics with you around your true likelihood of getting pregnant and birthing, a healthy baby after age 35. Now, this is coming from somebody who, I had my first baby at 35. So I know that it's possible, and I'm never going to tell you, like, I believe that God has the final say. I don't personally subscribe to all of those statistics that tell you, you have a 10% chance of delivering a healthy baby at 35, because I just believe when you start to subscribe to all of that, like, that is going to start creating your reality. So I don't personally subscribe to that. However, I do think that it's irresponsible for you to not prioritize what you truly desire, and then down the line, you're mad because you don't get what you desire. And so when I had the Single Wives Club way back, in 2012, 2013, and I was out here having these conversations, and I had a blog talk radio show where I was talking about these topics, and I would go, be interviewed on different people's platforms. And I'm talking about the fact that I desire to be a wife. I'm talking about the fact that I'm working on myself to become my best self so that I can attract better options. I was like the unicorn. People were looking at me like I was crazy for prioritizing partnership. Now, I was obviously an entrepreneur. I was definitely, building my business, getting to the paper, doing all of the things, but I was never shy about speaking on the fact that becoming a wife and having a family is something that I wanted. And so I knew that if these were my goals, I had to focus time, effort, and attention and my energy into those goals. I had to make sure the decisions that I was making, the words that I was speaking, the actions that I was taking was in alignment with the things that I said that I wanted. It's hard. It's going to be hard for you to find a woman today, because it was hard back then, and it's probably harder now, to even find a woman that will admit that she wants to be a wife. It's almost like you are ashamed to say it. It's almost like you don't want to admit it. You don't want people to judge you for this goal. And if you are not even willing to speak the words, 9 times out of 10, you're not willing to do the work. Because the work that you do, the actions that you take, the decisions that you make, the situations that you put yourself in have to be in alignment with the things that you say that you want. It is self-destructive to make decisions that contradict the things that you say that you want. And so I want to encourage you to stop self-sabotaging. I want to encourage you to start prioritizing the things that you want. Now, if this is not you, you could stop right here, send this episode to somebody who it might be for, somebody who might get a little blessing out of this conversation. But I believe as women, we are genetically wired to want companionship and commitment. It's literally in our human nature, like it's in our DNA to want these things. So by denying ourselves something that is truly in our DNA, that's self-sabotage. That's self-destructive. And so you literally look up at 45, 55, 65 and wonder why you're unhappy. I literally just saw a clip of Taraji doing an interview with Angie Martinez, and Taraji was just so sad in this interview. Now, this is someone who has all of the things, is quote unquote living her best life. She can afford all of the luxury. She can afford to do any of the things that she desires. But she was speaking about the fact that she has not been happy for a very long time, that she feels like her life is missing something. And we know that she was recently engaged. She called off her engagement. That is part of, I'm sure what she was referring to. But I think that she is one of many women who focus on, living a rich auntie life, living their city girl life, being cool with being, I don't want to say necessarily a side chick, but being cool with being in these situationships where there's sex, but there's no commitment. You're cool with it until it's not cool anymore. And then you look up and you are starting to, your biological clock is starting to tick. The doctor is saying, well, your eggs is drying up, like they're non-existent at this point. Your options are dwindling. And now you're disappointed. And so I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I want to be the bearer of real news. That if you do not start prioritizing your true goals, and for most women, your true goals, like in your heart of hearts, like for real, it's just me and you, okay? In your heart of hearts, if marriage and motherhood are a part of your goals, you have to start prioritizing them. And when I say prioritizing them, I mean recognizing them, admitting that that's what you want, and ensuring that your thoughts, your actions, your words are in alignment with those goals. You can't say that you want it, but then you're acting like you don't. You can't say that you want a healthy, happy relationship, but then you're willing to settle for whoever comes next. And so what I believe that we have to start doing is, number one, figuring out who the wrong men are. Who are the wrong men that we keep, quote unquote, ending up with, falling for, wasting our time with? There are so many women who appear to be successful on paper, who got it together professionally, but are a mess personally because They are settling for just whoever they can get, whoever shows them time, whoever shows them attention and gives them some time. And so you're wasting your best years. And when I say best years, I mean the years that you have to give you the best possible result for what you want. So if you want healthy, happy babies, these are your best years. Okay. So I personally know women who are just willing to play the role, willing to pretend like they're happy with whoever, because having somebody is better than having nobody. Not true. Because eventually that having somebody, that person who is not sent to you from God, that person who is not in alignment with what you truly desire and deserve, eventually it's going to like fizzle away. Eventually you're going to come to your senses. You're going to have this come into Jesus moment and realize that you've been wasting your time in this relationship or in this situationship. And you're going to look up and ask yourself like, well, now I got to start all over. So many women stay stagnant in these situations for fear of starting over. But I'm here to tell you, it's better to start over right now than it is to wait 5 years and start over then. You're going to be big mad if you wait 5 years to start over, to hit the reset button. So figuring out who the wrong men are, figuring out if it's your type that's been keeping you single. Step 1, figuring out who the wrong men are. Then step 2, being mature enough to slow down for long enough for the right man. And I just got to tell you, the right man, he might not come in the package that you've been praying for. He might not have the appearance of what you are normally attracted to. But are you mature enough to recognize his heart? Are you mature enough to sense his spirit? Are you mature enough to choose a partner based on what you truly deserve and not just what your flesh desires? Now, I'm not saying you should settle in terms of, just getting with anybody. Just getting with, someone you're not attracted to, or getting with someone you feel like you're settling for. But you have to start asking yourself what truly matters. Because when I was engaged in 2010, this man was all of the things that I thought I wanted. On paper, he was perfect. But in reality, he was nothing that I needed. And I was too stubborn to admit it for a long time, because I was just happy to have somebody who seemed like they wanted me. Even though he didn't have my best intentions in mind, even though I know for sure that this was not what God wanted for me, I was just happy to have somebody. And so I don't want you to end up stuck, especially stuck in a situation with somebody who is not deserving of you, and this is the person you partner with to have children. Biggest mistake. Like, you will be so upset for the next 18 years that you've gotten yourself caught up in this situation. And I believe that we are doing ourselves and our children a disservice when we're partnering with people who are not truly partners, when we're choosing to parent with people who we know are not going to be the best partners. They're not even a good partner to you. What makes you think they're going to be a good parent to your child? And the conversation again comes up once you 34, 35, you start looking at your options, you start Googling and getting on YouTube and doing your research around, well, how can I just have this baby on my own? I believe that choosing to be a single parent, not only is it selfish, that's just my personal belief, because we all know the statistics around children who grow up in single parent homes. Now, sometimes things happen, a parent passes away, like unexpected things, uncontrollable things. I get that. But to intentionally choose to be a single parent and to raise your children at a deficit, I think that you're doing everybody a disservice. Not only do I think that it's selfish, I also think that it's going to more than likely lead you to settling. That if you choose to take matters into your own hands, 9 times out of 10, you're going to end up just taking what you can get from life, not truly getting what you desire. You're going to be struggling to play all the roles because now you're mommy and daddy. You're going to be struggling managing a home alone. You're going to be struggling expecting some other man to come along and assume responsibility for children that aren't his. And all you got to do is talk to some men to prove that this is a fact. Now, there are men who will step up and be fathers to kids who are not their biological kids, but they're few and far between. And so I just don't know why you would want to put yourself in a position to have to struggle or to have to settle. So I definitely want you to start prioritizing your true goals. Start admitting what you truly desire and recognizing what you deserve and saying no to anything that's not in alignment with that. That means that you can't say you want a healthy, happy relationship with a God-fearing man who's responsible and wanting to become a father, but then you're out here entertaining these fools. That's not how it goes. You can't say that you want commitment, but then you cool with an occasional, Netflix and chill, booty call, friends with benefits, side chick situation. Your actions have to be in alignment. So what do you truly desire? Outside of what the world is telling you should prioritize. Because based on social media, based on reality TV, you would think that having your hot girl summer and getting with a man who can just provide you all the material things is what matters most. But you got to figure out how you define happiness. Because what you don't want to do is focus all your time and effort and attention and energy on your professional goals and your material possessions, and then look up 5, 10, 15 years from now and you're feeling unfulfilled. You're having regrets around the relationship that you don't have, that you did not prioritize. And so this is a little tough love solo sermon. I hope I didn't hurt your feelings too much. I really just want to help you put things into perspective, because it's too little thought going into these big life decisions. Too little, too late. Too little thought, and we're having the thoughts too late in life. And then we look up and we wonder why we're unhappy. We wonder why we are depressed. We wonder why we are jealous when we get on the gram. We wonder why we can't be happy for anyone else, because we're truly not happy with our own situations. The beautiful part, though, is that you are the designer of your destiny. The decisions that you make now are going to dictate what happens next. Please know that I love you. I got nothing but love for you. And if you are looking for a resource that you can get your hands on right now so that you can save yourself, get unstuck, and really start figuring out who you need to become to live the life that you desire to live, make sure you grab my book, Nobody's Coming to Save You. I share even more of my story, the lessons that I learned from being engaged early, from ending up in an abusive relationship, from having to figure out how to find myself and save myself. And plus, there's stories from 7 other women that you'll enjoy, appreciate, and be able to learn from. I love you. See you on the next episode.